Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to IEEE's Cybersecurity for Next Generation Connectivity Systems series. I'm Joyce Hunter, the Executive Director for Collaboration and Education at Mission Critical Incorporated, and I will be your moderator for today's Ask the Expert session. Our conversation is going to focus on the challenges women face in cybersecurity, the market barriers that limit participation, and inspiring initiatives underway to expand access, and why collaboration is not only about fairness, it's essential for resilience and innovation. Let's get started. I am proud to introduce Dr. Diane Janosek. Dr. Diane Janosek is a dedicated cybersecurity leader and author. As CEO of Janos LLC, she leverages her law degree and PhD in cyber leadership to focus on the intersection of law, policy, and technology. Areas of expertise include data policy, cyber law, compliance, governance, space security, and privacy. She served as the Defense Intelligence Senior Executive Service with leadership roles at the National Security Agency, including Commandant, National Cryptological University, Deputy Director of Compliance, CISO, and other legal, policy, and executive management position. She was also the Chief Legal Officer for Privacy and Civil Liberties, the Oversight Board and Counsel at the White House and Pentagon. Dr. Janosek, I'd like to begin with your personal journey. What inspired you to enter the cybersecurity field, and what have been some pivotal moments in your career?
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Joyce, for having me, and thank you to the IEEE for everything that they do for our community and just keeping us a community. I really value that. Who we are globally, locally, within our state, that sense of community is really important to me. So thank you, Joyce, for having me join you for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So thanks for that question. What inspired me to enter into the field of cybersecurity and some pivotal moments. I think, like all of us, 25 years ago, right, there wasn't a textbook on cybersecurity. So a lot of people around my age group have all evolved into it. And they've evolved into it because it was so curious and so interesting and constantly changing. And the constantly changing aspect, Joyce, I know you know what that's about, especially with every single Patch Tuesday and all the different ransomware threats and sophisticated techniques and tactics that are out there. Things keep changing. And so if you're in this field, you want to, you embrace change. You're highly high learner, just like, Joyce, just as you are, right? We're all high learners. We really just like to be curious and jump into it. So cybersecurity's got something for everyone, and it's got so many things that it keeps us all on our toes, and it keeps us as a community.
Absolutely. You have to be flexible, and you have to be innovative, and you have to be able to think on your feet. So as you look at your own career, what are some of the most persistent challenges you faced as a woman in cybersecurity, and how did you overcome them?
Well, thank you, Joyce, for that question. So I think we all have had different challenges, right? As we've navigated going up through the leadership chains and leadership ranks, there's always been, different challenges. As you can imagine, right? My experience was, I did about 10 years of legal work in the Washington, D.C. area before I went over to the Department of Defense. And so once you start getting into the military environment, it is a very different environment, especially in the technology and even on the law side at the time. So I had a very different experience, I think, than most people probably today. But it was with some pivotal moments in my career, I would say, is when I was challenged in terms of why I may have had a particular opinion on a legal issue, or why I didn't agree with a particular, let's say we're doing a foreign military sales and I had to agree to a particular data set. If I said no, and I'd be challenged. If a pivotal moment for me was being confident in my decisions. So as you grow, as you age and you move up and you become wiser, it's really about being confident and having the knowledge base to be confident, not to be overconfident, or be too confident, but just to be confident. And I think the pivotal moment of my career was when I realized, Diane, you understand this, and how to make a hard decision, how to make the choices and programmatic decisions and personnel decisions. And so be confident in your decisions and be comfortable. And that will change your career. You can walk into a room, and that goes with resilience, right? You walk into a room and it's really, it's just a much nicer environment when you're confident than second guessing yourself.
Thank you very much. I think that the confidence is a big thing, particularly with younger women.
Yes.
That confidence has to be built in, because a lot of times they come into an environment that is not always necessarily welcoming. How important is mentorship and sponsorship for retaining women in the cybersecurity workforce? And what are some of the best practices that you have seen over the years?
Thank you, Joyce, for that question. So we're talking about mentorship and sponsorship and probably allyship as well.
Mm-hmm.
As we all know, right, the career field and just the workplace, especially with AI and ML, is changing so much. We can never rest on our laurels, ever. And that's a challenge, right? Regardless of your age, regardless of, what's going on in maybe your home life, you have to constantly keep moving forward. So that mentorship role and finding someone that will help you navigate is so important. It's just so important, especially in the technical field, that you're on a computer a lot, you're on the keyboard a lot, there's a lot of different metrics going on, all technical or just very data driven. And at the end of the day, we're people, right? I mean, we're people.
So true.
And so the mentorship piece of it, to keep your talent, is so important, because especially the younger generations, they have a different way of communicating. And we all have a need to be valued and to be heard. And there's differences, right? In how we feel heard and how we feel appreciated. So mentorship is important, and sponsorship or allyship is important, because you want to be able to bounce ideas off of people. And then also, I think the sponsorship is interesting as well, because as a leader of hundreds of personnel throughout my career, it's important that if you find someone struggling, to say, hey, you've got these strengths. Don't forget about your strengths. Yeah, that might be a challenge for you, but you have your strengths to rely on. So why don't we try to, just increase your strengths across the board, and that will naturally, kind of compensate. So it's okay to have a challenge area. It's okay to recognize it, and still be confident that you have the other skill sets to move forward. For example, I mean, the cybersecurity field is very complicated, right? There's a risk, it's really a risk management field. If you don't have a good sense of network security, I would recommend learning about it, trying to understand it. You may never be a network security engineer, but at least learn the lingo so that you'll feel confident in those environments, that they're talking, that they're making the decisions, so that you understand what the conversation's about. And so recognize what your weaknesses are, and just invest in making those changes, and acknowledge that it's not going to hold you up, right, Joyce? I mean, you and I both, we've had so many different jobs, and it's all about layering our skills, and so it's having people to bounce things off of in the cybersecurity field, the technical fields. Our sense of community is important. And I think that's why, Joyce, we've been friends for a long time. And, women in this field really help each other out. I mean, in all genders, but particularly the cybersecurity community, we really do appreciate the value that each person brings, because there's so much involved with teamwork. And I think that's what's a beautiful thing, right? I mean, we really enjoy the times that we do get time together, is because we remember, we're humans behind this keyboard and behind the laptops.
And I know that you have found, as I have as well, Diane, that it's okay to ask questions. You know, the worst thing you can do is clam up and try to pretend like you know something that you really don't know, and then you're found out sometime later. It's okay to ask questions, or go find somebody who does have the answer, or go
Mhm.
look it up yourself and then bounce it, like you said, bounce it off somebody, because that is critical. So that leads me to the next question is, why is collaboration so critical for cyber resilience and innovation? And any examples that you could share where collaborative teams directly improve outcomes in cybersecurity?
Sure. Well, let's think about a data leak, right? There's so many ways a data leak could occur. And there's also so many ways that a data leak can be exacerbated. So just trying to figure out the root cause, what happened, why it happened, where the data went, that's never a one person's job. It's not, I mean, you have to have a
That is
team
true.
that
Yeah.
says, okay, so root cause analysis is somebody, data leakage is somebody else. How are you going to mitigate it is somebody else. And then do you have to notify and, getting the information up your leadership chain and, potentially informing your customers is probably somebody else. And then there's probably a compliance and a legal person in there trying to make sure that things are drafted properly and accounted for. That is a true, I mean, that is just a basic example where we have to come together. And we know that. And so Joyce, you've got this part, I've got that part. Okay, everyone, go do your homework, keep each other's, informed. Let's regroup tomorrow at 9 a.m., do a readout. Let's see what we still need to know, recollect, and then get back together at, 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon as well. That's just how we work, right? And it's kind of fun, isn't it? It's
It
kind of fun.
is.
I think it's fun. I think that's what makes cybersecurity professionals so different.
It does, because it is a collaborative
Yeah,
environment, and everybody has got to has their part to play.
yeah,
And then when you all come together and kind of put the puzzle together, it makes it a lot easier to get the task done.
yeah.
So, in that area, how can organizations integrate collaboration into
Oh,
cybersecurity strategy, not just make it a check mark or an HR thing, or make it part of a talent pipeline?
how to increase collaboration. I think it's, I mean, I think the young, and I don't want to, I mean, the younger generation is learning differently. So, my two
Mm,
kids, when they were going through school, they were teamed up. They were like the kindergartners were with the fourth graders and the fourth graders were with the eighth graders. And they were always being taught to bring somebody in with you. So that whole shadowing concept as you get into the professional workforce and and they do shadowing. My daughter's right now is in medical school, and part of that whole all of her clinical rotations, it's kind of
mm,
like a shadowing in a way, right?
true.
It's
Yeah.
learning. And
Yeah.
so often we don't think of that in our field because there's so many things going on. You never have enough people. But everybody I've ever asked said, hey, would you like to shadow me for the day? Would you, like to be an intern for the summer? Would you like to, do an article with me? They were like, yes, anything I can do to, to really move forward. So the goal for leadership teams and leaders in general is just to remember who you were way back when and the help that you needed and the breaks that you got and the advice that you were given and pay back, right? And just constantly be paying back. So as you form teams, remember to bring on the more junior person, not necessarily by age, but by skill set, the more junior
Hmm.
person, and say, okay, and when you take lessons learned and you do your best practices, what were those? Share those, give people the opportunities to brief out what's going on. And it's even on the, and like I was saying with my background, we would start off some of our younger engineers, more junior engineers, they could get some of the better assignments because we wanted to make sure that the better assignments, meaning maybe opportunities to brief very high level politicians or policymakers, give them the opportunity just to get the experience. Because if you don't get the experience, you're never going to be confident. And we need confident, self-assured leaders that know that they're part of a team, know that they need a team and that they're not an island of one. So the resiliency piece comes next from that lesson, but the collaboration starts first. And then I think we're going to talk also about resiliency, but you start first off with the collaboration and the mentorship and bringing somebody with you, literally saying, what can I do to pull you forward?
Yeah. But it never ends, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
it doesn't, you always need a mentor as you move up in your career. There are some areas that, especially like quantum, that's not an area that I'm really, really familiar with. So I am looking and partnering with people that know that topic way better than I do. And so that is a constant learning. You never stop learning.
Yeah,
And if you do, something wrong with you.
Yeah. So perfect example for that, Joyce. You're spot on, especially with your role with Mission Critical. I mean, so I was I'm very comfortable. I know what's going on in the federal space, right? I don't know the state and local as much. So I'm doing a lot more learning now about what's going on within the states and kind of what their initiatives are, where I could help, where things are going and things along those lines. I have so much to learn. I can apply a lot of the stuff that my experience and my education and my certificates, I can apply that, but I still don't know, right? And so that whole piece about networking and asking for others and being okay with asking. I think that was the question that you had asked earlier, Joyce said earlier, was like your statement that you said, it's okay to ask. In this field that we're in, we want you to ask, right? It's exciting.
Yeah. You never stop having a mentor or an allyship.
Yes,
Ever.
right.
There are always those people that are in your circle. Like they say, it takes a village. Well, it really does. In cybersecurity, it really does. And that's what provides the resiliency, because a skill or talent or something that somebody else has, maybe, you can bring that into your team as well. So let's go to that topic of resiliency. How does, in your thoughts and ideas, how have you used these talents for resiliency in the teams that you've managed?
Okay. So resiliency, and I think a lot of the times is people often think of resiliency on the technical level, right? We've always done that, Joyce. Like I had a meeting this morning with OT and establishing resiliency, especially in manufacturing. And in manufacturing, when they've got their systems that connect to the internet and there's natural weaknesses there. So teaching and educating manufacturers on as they adopt and they innovate and take on more modern operational technology, whether it be a product or software, they have to think of resiliency in terms of just where is their weakest link, what should they be doing, thinking it through. So resiliency in the cybersecurity space is absolutely important, and we talk about that. But then what we don't talk about, and I think is important, is personal resilience. Because if everyone's always looking to your team or to you to say, okay, what needs to be done? What needs to be done? What needs to be done? And the challenge, of course, is that in our field, we know that we're never 100% buttoned up. So even though you're resilient is really being prepared. So what that means is that all of us in the cybersecurity field live knowing that you're going to get a call, you're going to find something that didn't work right, there's going to be a hang up, and that may happen, once a week. And so it's not for the faint of heart, this field, because you're going to constantly be having some type of, challenge going on. And the biggest thing with being resilient is saying, okay, it's a challenge, but it's not going to take me down. We need to, we got, as a personal resilience, think about yourself as well. And I know I'm Joyce, I know you're the same way in terms of, and the folks on IEEE, people have such high expectations because of who you are and what your knowledge base is and what your education is and your experience. And sometimes it's hard to remember, we're just a human at the end of the day. And we all sometimes need a break to step back, regroup, maybe, and they always used to talk about having sabbaticals, and you never really hear anyone do
Yeah.
that anymore.
Yes. Yes.
And it was like to regroup, recharge, do your research, get, back up to speed in a particular area. And we never afforded the luxury of those big sabbaticals, even if they were just, a 2-week sabbatical, let's say. You don't get that. And it's not that, I'm not sure why, but all I'm saying is, as a human, just recognize that the rest of the people in this field are also treading water 24/7 in terms of keeping up. And resilience, think about resilience on your personal level, not just your team level and your company's level, but remember to also take care of yourself.
Exactly. I was in a board meeting this past weekend, and interesting that you should mention sabbaticals. Two of the members of the board said that they were getting ready to leave for sabbaticals. Their organizations actually encouraged them to take a brain break. And I tell people all the time, your brain is a muscle.
Yeah,
If you
that's what I
overwork
say. Yeah.
you're going to have problems. So you need that brain break in order to do something different. Don't think about work, do something different. Go hiking, go skiing, go someplace else, but do something a little bit different. So thank you for bringing that up, because I think that sabbatical should be brought back.
Yeah, yeah. And it keeps your creative juices going too, right? You're the most creative when you've got a blank slate. And I don't know about you, Joyce, and I don't know about your membership, but I actually like to write things down on a white piece of paper with no lines. When I'm going to put things down on paper and write things out or draw things out, I don't want the lines. I want to it's like, no, let me, think, as broadly as I can on a clean slate. And just that visual without lines is really, it's just a different feeling. And so sabbaticals are almost like giving yourself a clean sheet of paper.
Absolutely. Well, we're running out of time quickly. We could just go on forever. As my final question to you, what advice would you give to young women, or even people trying to transition, with all the transition that's going on? Maybe they want to do a career shift. What advice would you give to people to consider careers in cybersecurity, and to the leaders who want to recruit, mentor, and support them?
Well, that's an important question, because our field needs the best and the brightest. Our field needs the most curious, the most collaborative, the most resilient. And we won't get there unless we help the people that are currently in the field, that are entering the field, to stay in the field, or encouraging people to join us in our fight, right? So we have to be the biggest cheerleaders, notwithstanding the ransomware attacks and the data breaches and the different things that happen every single day in our field. We have to be the biggest cheerleaders to get people to join us and be positive. So what advice I would give to people considering the field is, one, if you are a high learner, like I love finding out, like my big thing is following trends, international trends, like what's going on with different continents, so to speak, in terms of where the different cyber threats are going, who the actors are, what's, why particular threat groups do what they do, what's their motivation, where are we doing. So if you have a passion in terms of just a particular area, that's who we need you in our field. We need you in our field. So my biggest advice that I would give to people interested in the field is, if you've got those characteristics, first of all, join us. Once you're in the field, remember to keep learning and learning and learning. The job at hand is going to possibly bring you down, but remember, you have to save time every single week to keep investing in your own self, investing in that learning, so that you stay on top of your game. It's not like, being a bank teller where you learn the skill on the job and then you have that skills. You can't be that. Our field is too dynamic. So the biggest skill is recognizing you're going into a field that's changing constantly. Number one, take care of yourself. Number two, take care of others. Number three, keep learning. And number 4 is smile and enjoy the ride, because that's who we are as a group.
That is so very true. I mean, you have to be ready to get on this roller coaster. You have some highs and you'll have some lows. Dr. Diane Janosek, thank you so much for your thoughtful insights and for the incredible work that you continue to do in advancing collaboration in cybersecurity. To our audience, today's conversation reminds us that building a resilient and innovative cybersecurity ecosystem requires all voices, all perspectives, and all talents at the table. On behalf of IEEE and Mission Critical, thank you for joining us for this session in our Cybersecurity for Next Gen Connectivity Systems series. And before we close, I want to give you a quick preview of our upcoming October 20th session, Securing Open Systems and Supply Chains. This theme is from SBOM to over-the-air hardening multi-vendor 5G, 6G, Edge, and IoT, with subtopics including open radio access networking, software and firmware provenance, device identity attestation, and lifecycle management at scale. This session will be moderated by Don Davidson, and you really don't want to miss this. Thank you for joining us again today, and we look forward to seeing you on October 20th at 12 noon. Until then, live long and prosper.